Welcome back, everyone. We're ready for another deep dive.
Okay.
Today,
Aren't you
we're
ready?
going to Africa to look at the world of agritech.
Okay.
So we're going to be talking about
Yeah.
high-tech, innovative solutions, and
A lot of potential.
yeah, a whole lot of potential.
Mm-hmm.
And our guide for this trip is the Continental Agritech Blueprint for Africa.
Right.
Have you heard of this?
I have. It's a really
Yeah.
fascinating document.
It's a collaborative effort between, I believe, different African nations, Smart Africa, and some big tech players
Mhm.
like Intel and Microsoft. And it's essentially a roadmap for how
Yeah.
technology
Yeah.
can revolutionize agriculture across the entire continent.
And it's interesting because it's not just about like, oh, let's introduce some fancy new gadgets.
Right.
It's about, how do we address some of the root challenges that African farmers face
Right.
and find ways to empower them
Yes.
through technology.
So let's talk about those challenges.
Okay.
Because this blueprint,
Paints a picture of African agriculture.
Yeah, that's
kind of complicated.
It's a mixed bag for
Yeah.
sure.
On the one hand, you have these smallholder farmers, many of whom are women,
Yeah.
who are, working incredibly hard to produce food for their communities
Mhm.
and make up a huge percentage of the,
Absolutely. I think it's something like 80%.
around 80%.
Productive land is held by smallholder farmers.
Right. Of the agricultural workforce, I believe.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, they're,
They're facing some serious obstacles. Low productivity,
Yeah.
limited access to markets,
Yep.
lack of financial resources are huge problems.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they're
Right.
on the front lines of climate change, facing
African
unpredictable weather patterns,
Yeah.
droughts, all of that.
It's like they're playing a game of agricultural Jenga
I like that.
with like all these
All the blocks.
lugs stacked against them. Yeah.
Yeah. Stacked against them. Yeah.
And here's a fact that really surprised me.
Okay.
Despite all this effort, Africa is actually
Mhm.
a net importer of food.
It is,
Is
which
that-
is a little bit
Yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive.
counterintuitive.
When you think about a continent with so much agricultural potential,
Right.
but actually relying on imports to meet its food needs.
Yeah.
And it's not just any food,
Mhm.
right? They're often importing products
Right.
that could be grown locally.
Which has got to have a huge impact
But
on the
so-
economy
Right.
and food security.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're spending money to import food,
Yeah.
you could be growing yourself.
Right.
That's
Missed opportunity.
missed opportunity for growth. Yeah. And for self-sufficiency.
So that's where Agritech comes in. And the blueprint really highlights that. Like, Agritech is
Right.
about finding ways to increase productivity,
Yep.
connect farmers to those markets, to give them those resources they need to thrive.
Absolutely.
It's about turning
Well-
those imported goods into exports,
Mhm.
boosting
Boosting the economy
that economy. Yeah.
and
Right.
making sure everyone has access to affordable, nutritious food.
Yes. So, I mean, is Agritech like the superhero swooping in to save the day?
Well, it's not a magic bullet, but it does
Mhm.
have the potential to be a really
Yeah.
powerful force for change. And this blueprint highlights some
Yeah.
really innovative initiatives that are already happening
Okay.
across the continent. I mean,
Yes.
take Morocco as an example.
Okay.
They've really
Yeah, good
embraced
ones.
technology.
Mhm.
They've implemented systems like SABA, which is a decision-making tool
Okay.
that uses data to help farmers optimize their yields.
So, like a personal farming consultant
You could say that.
towered by AI?
Yeah. It helps farmers
right.
make informed decisions
Yeah.
about, everything from planting and irrigation
Yeah.
to pest control and,
Yeah.
soil management.
And then they have this other system,
a TICER.
a TICER. Yeah. Which is.
Right, which is a real-time monitoring system that tracks weather patterns,
Oh, wow.
soil conditions, crop health.
That's amazing. So it's like having a constant.
A constant finger on the pulse of your farm,
Yeah.
allowing farmers to be proactive
Right.
rather than reactive.
Exactly.
And it's not just for large-scale farms. In
Yeah.
Rwanda,
Okay.
they've got the Smart and Kunganir system, or SNS for short,
SNS. Oh.
that's using digital technology to really empower smallholder farmers.
So what is the SNS all about?
It's essentially a digital platform that connects farmers
Okay.
to agro dealers and suppliers, so it makes it easier for them to access essential inputs like seeds and fertilizer. It also streamlines that whole
Okay.
subsidy program, ensuring that the subsidies actually reach
You're right.
the farmers who need them most.
So it's like cutting out
Cutting out the middleman,
Yeah.
making the whole process more efficient and
Yeah.
transparent.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's about,
It's about efficiency and
yeah.
productivity,
Yeah.
but it's also about
Right. Social impact.
social impact. Exactly.
Yeah.
The SNS is promoting financial inclusion, giving farmers access to
No. Oh.
digital financial services that were
Right.
previously out of reach, helping them to build credit histories, access loans, and, just
With a whole
manage their finances more effectively.
financial ecosystem opens up.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got Morocco kind of leading the way with these high-tech
High-tech
systems, and then we've got Rwanda showing how these digital platforms can
empower smallholders.
empower those smallholders.
Yeah.
Any other?
Well, Zimbabwe has a really interesting approach that tackles the problem from multiple angles.
I'm all ears.
Okay. So on the one hand, they're using mobile platforms like EcoFarmer to connect farmers to information, to markets, to financial services.
Okay.
A great example of how even simple technology can have a huge impact. But then on the other hand, they're really pushing the boundaries with high-tech blueberry farming.
Wow.
Using cutting-edge technologies to optimize production and tap into global markets.
So it's like they're playing both offense and defense.
Both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. And they're investing in...
And they're not stopping there.
Yeah.
They're investing in community information centers, which provide internet access and digital literacy training in rural areas. Because they understand that, technology is only as good as the people who use it.
Yeah.
So they're making sure everyone has the skills and resources to participate in the digital revolution.
It's a holistic approach.
Yeah.
So they're addressing those infrastructure challenges, empowering farmers with knowledge, creating a more connected agricultural ecosystem. All right.
Yeah.
So we've talked about some of the specific initiatives happening on the ground.
Yeah.
But what about the technologies themselves?
Yeah.
Like, what are some of the...
Well, you can't talk about Agritech without mentioning artificial intelligence.
Right.
Or AI. It's being used for everything, from analyzing soil conditions to predicting crop yields to optimizing irrigation systems and even identifying pests and diseases.
It's like having a super smart farmhand who can analyze
data, make recommendations.
All that data.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you've got...
And then you have the Internet of Things, or IoT.
IoT.
It's all about connecting devices and sensors to create this smart, data-driven farm. So imagine sensors in your fields that are tracking moisture levels, temperature, nutrient content, and sending that data
real-time data
to your phone or computer, real-time data.
So you can basically...
You can essentially monitor your entire farm.
Monitor your entire farm.
From your couch.
From your couch.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it allows for what's called precision farming.
Right.
Where you're only applying water, fertilizer, pesticides where they're needed.
Which is good not only for...
Which is good for the farmers, bottom line.
But
also for the environment.
But also for the environment.
Less waste, less runoff, less impact on the ecosystem.
Absolutely.
And then, speaking of efficiency, we can't forget about drones.
Right.
They're being used for everything, from crop spraying and monitoring to mapping fields and even planting seeds.
So it's like having an aerial view.
An aerial view of your farm and a high-tech helper.
Of your farm?
To do the work. And then there's a technology that might surprise you. Blockchain.
Blockchain. Yeah.
Isn't that the...
I know. You're probably thinking, what does Bitcoin have to do with farming? Yeah. But it's actually a perfect fit for agriculture. Yeah. Because blockchain is all about creating a secure and transparent record of transactions.
Okay.
So in the context of farming, it can be used to track food from farm to fork.
Okay. So like a digital fingerprint.
Exactly. A digital fingerprint.
That follows
the food throughout its journey, making it easier to trace it back to the source.
Okay.
And it can also help with things like payments and contracts, creating a more efficient and trustworthy agricultural supply chain.
So it's about bringing...
It's about bringing transparency and trust. To the whole system.
Yeah. That's great. And it's, I think there's this whole world of possibilities for how these technologies can be combined and applied to address specific challenges.
Yeah. And the blueprint highlights some companies that are doing some really innovative work.
Absolutely.
For instance, there's Field Cloud, a company that's setting up sensor networks, nano data centers, and access networks across Africa.
Across Africa.
So, I mean, they're laying the digital...
They're laying the digital groundwork for the future farming.
What else is out there?
Well, Cineverse is another company pushing the boundaries.
Okay.
They have this vision called Connected Everything.
Okay.
And they're using their technology to create smart irrigation systems.
Oh, wow.
In Zimbabwe.
Okay.
Helping farmers use it.
That's crucial, especially
in regions facing water scarcity.
Right, exactly. So it's not just about...
helping farmers.
Yeah.
It's about preserving a precious resource.
Right.
And then there's Intel.
Right.
A company we all know.
I was going to say.
For computer chips.
They're known for.
But they're also doing some amazing work in the Agritech space.
Okay.
They're using IoT for digital soil testing.
Wow.
Package-level freight tracking.
Okay.
And even blockchain for food traceability.
It sounds like they're bringing the full force of their
technological expertise to the challenges of agriculture.
Yeah.
And it's really encouraging to see these big tech companies investing in Agritech and partnering with African innovators to create solutions that are tailored to the specific needs of the continent.
It's clear that there's a lot of excitement and momentum building around Agritech in Africa. But as with any ambitious endeavor, there are bound to be challenges.
Of course. Yeah.
What are some of the hurdles that these
innovators are facing? Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a massive shift. It's like going from, a horse and plow to a self-driving tractor.
Yeah.
And, with any kind of big transition like that, there are going to be
growing pains
along the way.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest hurdles is infrastructure.
Yeah.
In many rural areas.
Right.
Basic things like reliable electricity and internet access are still a major challenge.
It's like trying to build a...
It is.
It is.
It's like trying to build a skyscraper.
On a foundation?
On a foundation of sand. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need that solid base.
You need that base to support everything else.
Everything.
And then there's the issue of funding.
Yeah.
Agritech.
It's a relatively new field, and so investors can be a little hesitant.
Right. Because it feels...
to put their money in something that feels risky.
Yeah.
But
without that investment... you can't scale up these solutions.
It's hard to scale it up and reach the people.
Reach the farmers.
Who need it most.
So it's kind of a catch-22. You need funding to demonstrate success.
You need funding to demonstrate success, but you need success to...
But you need success to attract funding.
Yeah.
And that's why these initiatives are so important.
That's why initiatives like this blueprint are so important.
Yeah.
Because they provide
that framework.
They provide a framework for collaboration.
Right.
They attract attention from investors. They create a more supportive environment for Agritech to flourish.
And speaking of the blueprint, it takes this really interesting approach.
It does.
To addressing...
It actually clusters African countries into different categories or quadrants based on their current agricultural and ICT capabilities.
So it's a
smart strategy because it recognizes that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
One size fits all.
Each country has its own strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
And so the blueprint provides tailored recommendations for each of those quadrants.
So let's unpack these quadrants.
Okay.
What are those categories?
Okay, so you've got the fast adopters.
Okay.
These are countries that are already ahead of the curve.
Okay.
Both a strong agricultural sector.
Yeah, strong agricultural sector.
And advanced ICT infrastructure.
Okay. So we're thinking like...
Think like Kenya. South Africa.
The
blueprint encourages these countries to just keep pushing the boundaries, focusing on things like data-driven decision-making, precision agriculture, and even exploring vertical farming in urban areas. Yeah. So they're like the trailblazers.
Yeah, they're the trailblazers, setting an example.
Giving the example.
For others to follow.
Then
you have the ICT fit countries.
Okay.
So these are nations that have...
So their agriculture...
a solid foundation in ICT.
Might need a boost.
But their agricultural sectors might need a boost.
Okay. So it's like you've got...
It's like having a toolbox full of...
high-tech gadgets.
But... you're not quite sure how to use them.
You're not sure how to use them.
To build a house.
Yeah. That's a great...
So the blueprint suggests these countries focus on developing digital agricultural supply chain management services. So, mobile platforms that connect farmers to buyers and suppliers.
Streamlining, simplifying.
Making the whole process more efficient and transparent.
I could see how that would be a game changer for farmers who are used to dealing with a lot of
bureaucratic red tape. Yeah. And then you've got
what about the third category?
The Agritech countries.
Okay.
So these are nations with, fertile land, strong agricultural tradition, but maybe lagging a bit in ICT infrastructure.
The food.
They're producing the food.
But they need the tech.
But they need the tech to take it to the next level.
To get it to that next level. Yeah. So it's about bridging the digital divide.
It's about bridging the digital divide, bringing those countries online, and giving them access.
Giving them access.
A tool.
And resources they need.
Giving them access.
And then that final.
Yeah. And then finally, you have the emerging adopters.
Okay. Emerging adopters.
This is where.
So these are the countries that are
both the agricultural and ICT sectors kind of development.
Starting from a bit further back. Starting from further back.
Yeah.
It's a tougher climb.
Yeah.
But also
a huge opportunity for growth.
A huge opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
It's like
they're at the base camp.
At the base camp of Mount Agritech.
Mount Agritech, looking up
at the summit.
At the summit.
Yeah.
They've got a challenging journey ahead.
Yeah.
But the view
from the top is going to be incredible.
From the top is incredible.
That's great.
And the blueprint acknowledges, the unique challenges that these countries face. And so
it's like they're providing
it outlines a step-by-step pathway, starting with,
a roadmap to success.
Establishing strong governance.
Guiding them along the way.
Structures, developing a national agritech strategy, and then focusing on pilot projects that can demonstrate the value
of the technology.
And it's tailored to meet countries where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So each nation has
its own path.
But beyond those specific
for each quadrant.
Are
there any overarching?
There are some overarching themes.
Or
some key takeaways that apply across the board. I think one of the biggest ones is strong leadership. And political will.
So
governments need to be champions for Agritech. Creating supportive regulatory environments. Because even with all
the technology in the world,
it won't flourish.
It's not going to flourish
if the government's not backing it.
If the government's not actively backing it.
Yeah.
And that support.
And it needs to be go beyond just words.
Yeah.
It needs to translate into concrete action. Prioritizing
funding for these initiatives, investing in
digital skills training.
Put your money where
your mouth is. What else?
Collaboration is key.
Yeah.
Bringing together stakeholders from across the agricultural value chain.
Okay.
Including farmers, researchers, technology providers, investors.
Right.
It's about creating this.
It's like you're building a symphony orchestra.
Oh. You need all the different instruments playing together
to create something truly beautiful. And the blueprint also stresses the need to address some of the tougher questions.
Okay.
Things like
how do you manage
agricultural data
responsibly?
How do you ensure data security and privacy?
How do you create equitable access to this technology?
So it's not just about promoting
technology for technology's sake. It's about thinking critically. About
the ethical implications.
It's about making sure.
That
technology is used for good.
To empower farmers to create
a sustainable and
equitable food system.
So it's not just about
increasing
yield
or boosting profits.
It's
about creating a system that benefits.
It's about a system that benefits everyone.
From the farmer
to
the consumer.
Consumer at the table. And one of the things that I found really impressive about the blueprint is that it actually lays out this detailed framework for monitoring.
So it's not just
evaluating the progress
theoretical
of Agritech initiatives. So,
it's a practical guide.
A theoretical document.
With a practical guide.
With concrete steps for implementation.
For implementation.
And assessment.
And assessment.
You know, it's about...
So it's about accountability.
Accountability.
Transparency.
Making sure that Agritech...
Making sure that Agritech...
is serving the...
is actually serving the needs...
African farmers.
Of African farmers.
Contributing to those broader goals.
To the broader goals...
of food security.
Of food security.
Yeah.
And economic development.
And economic development.
It's a valuable resource.
It is a valuable resource.
You know, not just for policymakers.
Yeah. Not just for policymakers, but for anyone who's rest in the future of food, interested in the future of food,
and the role
the technology
that technology can play. Well, we've talked a lot about the big picture.
We've talked about
the blueprints,
the challenges and opportunities of Agritech.
Of Agritech in Africa.
But I'd love to get a little more granular. Can you share some specific examples of how Agritech is being implemented?
Being implemented in different parts of the continent. Right. Real world.
Parts of the continent.
Boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground.
Yeah. There's so much exciting stuff happening right now. For instance, have you heard about the connected aquaponics project in
I heard about it.
Nigeria and Tanzania?
But I don't know if I fully understand it.
So aquaponics is basically...
Can you give us the combining fish farming...
lowdown for our listeners.
...with hydroponics, which is essentially growing plants without soil.
Oh, okay.
So you create this closed loop system where the fish waste provides nutrients for the plants.
Yeah. Oh.
And the plants help to filter the water for the fish.
And the connected part means...
Yeah, and the connected part means that it's all hooked up.
Hooked up to the internet.
Yeah. So you have these sensors and monitoring systems that allow farmers to track water quality, temperature, you know, all those important factors.
So they can make
adjustments
remotely to create the optimal environment.
Both for the fish and the plant.
So they're taking it's traditional farming technique and giving it a 21st century...
Giving it that 21st century upgrade.
Well,
and then
there's our innovations.
A platform called FarmForce.
Okay.
That's making a big impact in countries.
It's powerful.
Ethiopia, Sudan, Uganda.
It's their story.
It's basically a cloud-based platform that provides farmers.
So it gives farmers with all sorts of tools,
resources
to manage their operations more effectively. So they can track their planting and harvesting.
Manage their finances.
Manage their finances.
Access training
materials, and even connect with buyers and suppliers.
Wow. So it's like a
one-stop shop. For all things.
So all things farming. And I imagine this is...
And it's incredibly helpful.
For those smallholder farmers.
Smallholders?
Who might not have access to those traditional support systems.
Who might not have access to that. It's about empowering farmers. With knowledge. Connecting them to resources.
Helping them to become...
To become successful entrepreneurs. I bet this also helps. It also helps to create more transparency in the supply chain and traceability in the supply chain, which is becoming increasingly important for consumers.
It's becoming increasingly important
for those consumers
where their food comes from,
who want to know where their food's coming from, and how it's produced. Now, this next example might surprise you a bit. It's not from Africa.
Oh, all right.
But I think it has some interesting implications for the continent. Have you heard about what's happening?
Yeah. I mean, China...
With e-commerce and agriculture in China?
...is a global leader in Agritech. And they're doing some really innovative...
So for those who aren't familiar, can you give us the lowdown?
With platforms like...
Taobao?
Okay. So Taobao is basically...
It's like Amazon, but for...
But
agricultural products.
Okay. So it connects farmers.
Connecting farmers directly
with consumers. Allowing them to sell... They're
cutting out
online without going through those traditional middlemen.
More control over pricing and...
Exactly. And they're taking it a step further.
And they're doing this through...
With live streaming. Farmers are actually going live on Taobao.
Live streaming.
Showcasing their products, interacting.
Wow. So that's a whole new level of...
With customer
transparency.
In real time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's...
Consumers can literally see.
It's a brilliant strategy for...
Where their food is coming from.
Building trust.
And
creating a more personalized shopping experience. And I think this has huge potential for African farmers.
Absolutely.
As internet penetration increases.
Across the continent,
right,
we could see platforms that
that's
they farm,
emerging
connecting those farmers?
Connecting farmers directly with consumers in urban areas.
In those urban areas. It's like bringing
the farmers market.
Bringing the farmers market
into the digital age.
Okay.
So let's head back
to Africa.
What other innovations?
There's a project. It's called Soil Scout. It's making waves in South Africa. They've developed this wireless soil sensor that can be buried underground to monitor conditions. Health,
good your soil,
moisture levels, temperature, nutrient content.
So the farmers
can access
all this data
on their phones or computers,
giving them real-time insights into what's happening beneath the surface, which allows them to.
It's about precision.
And kind of
make more informed decisions.
Yes.
About irrigation, fertilization, planting, maximizing yields while minimizing their environmental impact.
And speaking of data, there's a company called Connected Cow.
Connected Cow. Let's use it.
IoT technology.
Cows wearing
to revolutionize livestock farming. In South Africa.
So what are
they're using sensors and monitoring systems.
Feels like a high tech
to track everything.
Health tracker.
From a cow's location
for your herd
and activity levels. To its body temperature and milk production.
It's about improving animal welfare.
It's about improving animal welfare,
increasing productivity,
creating a more
secure and sustainable
livestock industry.
Yeah. And then one that I think is particularly relevant to our listeners is the e-voucher system. That's being used
in Zimbabwe.
Like a digital coupon.
It's a simple but effective solution that allows farmers to purchase.
So this allows farmers to purchase those farm inputs?
Like seeds and fertilizer at a subsidized rate. Using a digital voucher. Yeah. It's making a big difference.
So it's about increasing access.
To
affordable
inputs.
Especially for those smallholder farmers.
The smallholder farmers who might not have
the cash flow
to invest
in high quality seeds or
fertilizers up front.
So it's about leveling the playing field.
And giving
those farmers a chance.
To compete.
It's really inspiring to see all these different ways that technology is being used to address these.
There are so many challenges.
Separate ways
that technology is being used to address these
African agriculture. But I mean, it can't all be sunshine and roses.
They can't all be.
Right. What are some of the hurdles?
Sunshine and roses. There are definitely challenges. We've already talked about infrastructure and funding. But there's another big one that I think often gets overlooked. The human element.
What do you mean?
What I mean by that. Technology is a powerful tool.
Right.
But it's only as good as the people who use it. You can have the most sophisticated sensors and algorithms.
Right.
It's about more than just handing someone a smartphone and saying, like, go farm.
Right.
You know, it's about
education,
training, building trust.
Education, training, and building that trust.
And that's why the blueprint emphasizes the importance of investing in digital skills training for farmers, for other stakeholders.
Everyone in
the agricultural value chain.
Yeah.
It's about empowering.
It's about empowering people to become
active participants
in the digital revolution, not just passive recipients of technology.
Passive recipients of the technology.
Exactly. And then there's also...
the issue of...
scalability.
Scalability.
A lot of these Agritech initiatives, they start out small.
Right. They start small.
Focusing on
pilot projects or niche markets.
But the real challenge...
But how do you take those...
Taking those successes and replicating them on a larger scale.
Replicate them. Yeah.
Reaching,
So it's not just about these millions of farmers.
Pockets of innovation.
Across the continent.
Yeah.
It requires not just...
It's about creating a widespread...
technological
innovation of the agricultural landscape.
But also systemic change.
Right.
We need to address issues like...
Land tenure.
access to markets,
access to
financial inclusion, if we want to see real sustainable progress.
It's a complex challenge.
It is a complex challenge.
But the potential rewards are enormous.
If Africa can truly harness
the power of Agritech, it could
transform not only its own agricultural sector, but also become
an agricultural sector, but also become
a global leader in food innovation. It's like Africa is poised to just leapfrog ahead. Skip over that industrial agriculture model.
That's caused so many
parts of the world. And other parts of the world. Go straight to a more sustainable tech-driven approach.
Yeah.
And this shift could have ripple effects.
And that shift could have those ripple effects throughout the entire
global food system.
Meaning some
more diversity, more resilience.
More resilience. That's a powerful vision. You know, this has been incredibly eye-opening, but I know our listener might be thinking, like, what can I do?
What can I do?
How can I be a part of this change?
Yeah. It's a great question. And the truth is, there are so many ways to get involved, even if you're not a farmer.
Okay.
Or a tech entrepreneur.
Let's empower our listeners.
Yeah. First and foremost, educate yourself.
Okay.
You know, learn about the challenges and opportunities facing agriculture in Africa.
Right.
Explore the amazing work being done by these Agritech innovators.
There are tons of resources online.
There are tons of resources available online. You know, articles, documentaries, podcasts, webinars. Don't underestimate the power of
talking to people.
Reach out to farmers, researchers, entrepreneurs who are working in this space.
Boots on the ground, people.
Learn from their experiences and perspectives.
Knowledge is power.
The
more we understand about these complexities of the food system, the better equipped we are to make informed choices and advocate for change. What else can our listeners do?
Spread the word.
Okay.
Talk to your friends, family, colleagues. About
share those stories on social media.
Share articles, stories on social media.
Support organizations. Be an Agritech evangelist. Use your platform. However big or small. To amplify the message. Yeah.
You know, if you're looking for a more tangible
way to contribute.
Consider investing in Agritech startups or companies that are working in this space.
Invest.
You know, there are crowdfunding platforms.
The future of food.
Impact investment funds. That allow you to support.
Any other ideas?
Entrepreneurs. You know, and think about your own consumption habits. Support fair trade. And sustainable agriculture initiatives.
Choose to buy products that are sourced responsibly.
Choose to buy products that are
afraid to ask.
Sourced responsibly. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, curiosity is key.
About where your food comes from.
The more we
engage with these issues, the more we can influence the system.
Exactly. It's all about creating a more
It was a deep dive.
A real eye-opener for me, and I hope our listeners walking away feeling informed, inspired,
it's a pleasure,
empowered. We've explored the challenges.
It has. Thanks for
the opportunities, the technologies,
and
the human stories that are
great.
Shaping the future of agriculture in Africa.
Yeah.
And
I think one thing is clear.
Absolutely.
This is a story that is still to our listener
being written. The future of food is in our hands, and it's up to all of us
to create,
exploring, keep asking questions, and
a more just, sustainable, and delicious world.
Keep believing in the power of innovation. Take